I'm ready. I think.
It's all up to you.
I. Hopefully I don't say the wrong word.
Spacious skies.
I. Really hard word to remember, but.
The House of Representatives will now come to order. Leading us in our prayer this afternoon is Dr. Joel Allen of Mitchell, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance, led by our page of the day, Maria Stephenson of Arlington. Please rise.
Pray with me if you would, please.
Lord God, as we begin this season of Lent, we give thanks to you for the message of grace that reminds us that in our humility and in our weakness and our humanity, we're still loved, we're still encouraged, we're still your children. But as we enter into this season, I pray that we would be able to think as those who are humble of heart, as we're called to do, and that through those deeper feelings of humility and recognition of our own limitations, that we would be able to think better and do better work because we're able to listen to what other people have to say and able to meet in the middle, perhaps, when there are disagreements. So may that spirit of Lent grant and guide and give peace to this session as they continue their great work. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will please call the roll.
Representatives Zandera, Arlen, Elk, Elward, Baumüller, Bathke, Baxter, Sismowski, DeGroot, Derby, Duffy, Emery, Fitzgerald, Fosness, Garcia, Goodwin, Gosh, Greenfield, Helverson, Healy, Heerman, Heineman, Hughes, Hunt, Ismay, Jameson, Jensen, Jordan, Jorgensen, Casson, Kaiser, Colbeck, Call, Ladner, Lems, Manhart, Massey, May, Moore, Mortensen, Muckey, Mullally, Mulder, Knowles, Norstrup, Odenbach, Overweg, Peterson, Poyer, Randolph, Rayfeld, Reimer, Rice, Roby, Rowe, Schaefbauer, Schwanz, Shorma, Schubeck, Sharda, Soy, Stevens, Uribalk, Van Diepen, Wahlberg, Weems, Weisgram, Whitman, Speaker Hansen.
Here.
Mr. Speaker, there is a quorum.
Approval of the journal.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Legislative Procedure respectfully reports that the Chief Clerk of the House has had under consideration the House Journal of the 23rd day. All errors, typographical or otherwise, are duly marked in the temporary journal for correction, and we hereby move the adoption of the report. Respectfully submitted, John Hanson, Chair.
That motion having been made and seconded, are there any remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the journal will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Reports of standing committees.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Legislative Procedure respectfully reports that the Office of Engrossing and Enrolling has carefully compared House Bill 1003, 1019, 1035, and 1201 and finds the same correctly enrolled. Respectfully submitted, John Hanson, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Legislative Procedure respectfully reports that House Bill 1030, 1043, 1118, and 1137 were delivered to His Excellency the Governor for his approval at 1:20 p.m., February 19th, 2026. Respectfully submitted, John Hanson, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on House State Affairs reports that House Bill 1196 was tabled, House Bill 1246 and 1323 do pass, House Bill 1278 be amended and do pass, House Bill 1285 and 1301 were deferred to the 41st legislative day. Respectfully submitted, Scott Odenbach, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on House Taxation reports that House Bill 1259 be referred to the House Committee on Appropriations with a due pass recommendation. House Bill 1317 be referred to the Committee on House of Representatives without recommendation. House Bill 1281 was deferred to the 41st legislative day. House Bill 1307 was tabled. Respectfully submitted, Ellen Elward, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on House Local Government reports that Senate Bill 165 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Greg Jameson, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on House Agriculture and Natural Resources reports that House Bill 1299 do pass. House Concurrent Resolution 6016 be adopted. Respectfully submitted. Marty Overwig, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Joint Committee on Appropriations respectfully reports that House Bill 1072 was tabled. Respectfully submitted. Mike Derby, co-chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on House Transportation reports that House Bill 1141 was deferred to the 41st legislative day. Senate Bill 2627 and 71 do pass and be placed on the consent calendar. Respectfully submitted. Tony Randolph, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on House Health and Human Services reports that House Bill 1160 was deferred to the 41st legislative day. House Bill 1163 and 1210 do pass. Respectfully submitted. Brian Mulder, Chair.
Messages.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to return herewith House Bill 1003, 1019, 1035, and 1201, which have passed the Senate without change. Also, Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to transmit herewith Senate Bill 224, which has passed the Senate, and your favorable consideration is requested. Respectfully, Peggy Lorenz, Secretary.
Motions and resolutions.
Representative Odenbach moved that when we adjourn today, we adjourn to convene at 1 p.m. on Friday, February 20th, the 25th legislative day.
That motion having been made and seconded, any remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Odenbach motion will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Consideration of committee reports.
Representative Odenbach moved that the reports of the standing committees on education on House Bill 1017, as found on page 346 of the House Journal, also judiciary on House Bill 1045, as found on page 352 of the House Journal, also state affairs on House Bill 1275, as found on page 349 of the House Journal, and commerce and energy on House Bill 1292, as found on page 350 of the House Journal, be adopted.
That Odenbach motion having been made and seconded, any remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Odenbach motion will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. First reading of Senate bills.
Senate Bill 224, provide a rebuttal presumption in favor of joint physical custody of a minor child.
Second reading of consent calendar items.
House Bill 1199, address prior authorization and reporting requirements by utilization review organizations and health carriers. House Bill 1311, require the reporting of funding given by certain persons and governments to institutions under the control of the Board of Regents and the South Dakota Board of Technical Education. Senate Bill 73, revised provisions relating to state financial practices.
Consent calendar items having had their second reading are up for consideration and final passage. Consent calendar items are bills and resolutions that have been reported out of committee with no negative votes and certified as uncontested. If any member objects to the placement or retention of any item on the consent calendar, the item must be removed from the consent calendar and placed on the House calendar for debate. Items on the consent calendar are not debatable, but questions may be asked. Are there any questions? Seeing none, then the question before the House is final passage of the items on the consent calendar. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine, and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Goodwin.
Special privilege.
Granted.
This is from yesterday. If I could go, if I have latitude to read the commemoration that we didn't get to yesterday.
Granted.
Thank you. Well, because we got our calendar cut a little short yesterday, we didn't get through everything, so we're going to catch up with this. This is a commemoration about a Korean War veteran. I just want to set the stage before I read it. In 1952, this Navy pilot, he was an ensign then, which is a lieutenant, took off an aircraft carrier. It was 1952, that was the Korean War, and 7 Russian MiGs came at him. Now, Russia wasn't supposed to be in the Korean War, and they weren't, but they were there. And so he had 3 other pilots with him, 3 other airplanes with him, and they got ordered to land again so they wouldn't have a confrontation, but he was already taking fire. So what he did is he shot down 4 MiGs. He hit the other 2 where they went back and weren't operable, and 1 got away to go tell what happened. And so because of that, because Russia wasn't supposed to be in the Korean War, they classified it right away. He couldn't talk about it as rest of his career. He retired as a Navy captain, which is a colonel in the Army. So once they declassified it in the year 2000, they did an investigation on it. It was the longest air battle ever in the air in our history. 35 minutes he fought those 7 Russian MiGs, and like I said, down 6 of them. And so President Trump put him in, and he's getting awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. He's from Wilmot, South Dakota. So let me read it. Yeah. This is a legislative commemoration recognizing Captain Royce Williams for his exemplary military service and bravery in combat. Whereas Roy Williams was raised on a farm near Wilmot, South Dakota during the Great Depression, and he grew up embodying the values of hard work, courage, and leadership. Whereas Roy Williams earned a commission in the United States Navy, became a Navy aviator, was assigned to fly on F-9F Panther fighters while in combat during combat duty off the coast of North Korea in 1952. Whereas Lieutenant Junior Grade Williams was in combat air patrol with a group of 3 other pilots on 18 November 1952 when 7 Soviet MiGs approached the U.S. fleet engaged with the fighters. And whereas the 3 of the pilots were ordered to return to the aircraft carrier, but the Soviet MiGs had already fired upon Williams, who was engaged in aerial combat for the next 35 minutes, which is believed to be the longest dogfight in U.S. Navy history. Williams shot down 4 enemy aircraft, damaged 2 others before ultimately landing his aircraft back on the deck of the aircraft carrier. Whereas the United States intercepted the Soviet Air Force transmissions confirming the hostile intent in the U.S. fleet, so actually the Russians were coming to sink the aircraft carrier. The attack and the loss of the Soviet aircraft, but due to the security classification, Lieutenant Junior Grade Williams was ordered never to speak at the event, and the knowledge event remained classified until 1990 after Williams retired from the Navy with the rank of captain. Whereas in December 2025, Secretary of the Navy recommended upgrading Captain Williams' military decoration to the Medal of Honor. And the President of the United States personally called to inform Captain Williams of his intent to award him the nation's highest honor for courage in the face of the enemy. Therefore, be it commemorated by this 101st legislative session, the state of South Dakota, that Captain Williams is recognized for exemplary military service and bravery in combat. Hooah, hooah.
Representative Goodwin.
Yeah, just one other thing I just wanted to add is, we are going to have fireworks at Mount Rushmore on July 3rd, and I think it'd be really cool if we could get Royce Williams there to get the Congressional Medal of Honor from President Trump at that time. And would that be awesome or what?
Representative Peterson, Granson.
Thank you, Mr. Speakers and Mr. Speaker and members of the House. Today, up in the gallery to the right is, we're proud to have the South Dakota Agribusiness Association's 2026 class of Tomorrow's Ag Leaders, better known as TALL, with us in the gallery. TALL is a professional development program designed to build the next generation of leaders and advocates in our state's agribusiness industry. This year's class includes 10 professionals representing South Dakota's ag retail, grain, seed, and crop protection sectors from communities across the state. They're in Pierre this week to gain firsthand understanding of the legislative process and to better serve their businesses, customers, and rural communities. Please help me welcome this group to their capital. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 65, nays 1, excused 4.
Consent calendar items having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect are hereby declared passed. Any questions on the titles? Seeing none, the titles are deemed correct. Second reading of House bills.
House Bill 1254, an act to exempt any soil amendment used exclusively for agricultural purposes from sales tax and to modify the definition of a soil amendment.
House Bill 1254, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Heineman.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I have an amendment.
Is that 1254B?
Correct.
Has it been distributed online?
Yes,
You wish to move it at this time?
I do.
The Heineman motion to amend House Bill 1254 with Amendment 1254B having been made and seconded. Remarks on your motion, Representative Heineman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think you can see from your computer looking at that, we had a few little bumps in the road with this bill. First, I was unaware at the first of the amendment that potentially was placed on there because I was in another committee. But the representative from Madison had a constituent that morning of the hearing in taxation that didn't think that that constituent was going to be included with this bill. And so they crafted an amendment, and that amendment was placed in front of the committee, and the committee acted on that amendment. And then later that day, we discovered, I guess, DANR and DOR collaborated and realized that that amendment was going to conflict with not only federal law, but issues between the entities. So this amendment would return this bill back to its original form. And then if I can do that, if I ask the body to do that, and then I'll discuss the merits of the bill.
Thank you. Further remarks on the Heineman motion to amend? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, question for the House is the Heineman motion to amend House Bill 1054 with Amendment 1054B. This is a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion to amend will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're now on House Bill 1054 as amended. Representative Heineman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, body, for your deference in this discussion. House Bill 1254, as amended, clarifies South Dakota law by exempting soil amendments from sales tax when they're sold in quantifying quantities and used for agricultural purposes. I brought this bill forward because it fixes a technical gap in the statute that doesn't really reflect how these products have long been used and treated in real practice. For years, soil amendments have been sold and purchased without sales tax, similar to fertilizer, which is already exempt. Only recently did it come to light that soil amendments were not clearly addressed in our state statute. Like many producers, I use soil amendments alongside fertilizer in my own operation. These products are often blended or applied together, which in part is why this issue went unnoticed for so long. House Bill 1254, as amended, does not change current behavior in the marketplace, and it does not create a new or expanded exemption. It simply provides clarity so producers, retailers, and the state all have the same understanding moving forward. This bill is intentionally narrow. It mirrors existing fertilizer exemption language, and it's revenue neutral. So, thank you for listening. Please support House Bill 1254B as amended with a green vote.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1254? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1254 as amended. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Knowles. Granted.
Thank you all. Well, if you noticed the popcorn balls on your desk today, it is Mitchell Day. I heard there's 75 members of the Corn Palace City here, but we have a few up there. It looks like DW students. So if you'll help me welcome them to the Capitol and give them a round of applause. Thank you for being here today.
Representative Manhart. Granted.
All right, well, in the back, I have two wonderful constituents joining us. They are also the parents of Grant Cutler, our page up front. This is Josh and Annalisa Cutler. They are also the parents of 17 wonderful children. I can't wait till they're all old enough to vote. Welcome them.
Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are ayes 65, nays 1, excused 4.
House Bill 1254, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
House Bill 1138, an act to require the licensure of non-medical home care agencies and to provide a penalty therefor.
House Bill 1138, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Heerman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have an amendment to 1138C.
Has it been distributed online?
It has.
You wish to move it at this time?
I do.
That motion to amend House Bill 1138 with Amendment 1138C having been made and seconded. Remarks on your motion, Representative Heerman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So this, I've really taken the time and heart to ensure that we have covered all of the concerns that have been brought forward by this body, and just ensuring that what this bill does is a very specific sliver of ensuring that non-medical home care agencies have some very specific guardrails that are consumer protections. And so I'd ask for your green vote on the amendment.
Thank you. Further remarks on the Heerman motion to amend? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, question for the House is the Heerman motion to amend. House Bill 1138 with Amendment 1138C. This is a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion to amend will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're now on House Bill 1138 as amended. Representative Heerman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 1138, as amended, is a common sense consumer protection bill. Today in South Dakota, non-medical home care agencies are not regulated. They can operate without any licensure, training standards, and background checks, even though they are providing care for some of our most vulnerable neighbors in their homes. This bill creates some basic guardrails. What does it look like for a home care agency to be licensed within this bill? 1, the home care agency will need to carry and submit proof of professional liability insurance. 2, the home care agency will submit attestation that training and a background check has occurred for all paid employees that are under contract. And 3, the home care agency will submit a licensure fee not to exceed $100. These are reasonable protections that most families already assume are in place when they are hiring somebody to come and care for their loved ones. As our state continues to age, more South Dakotans want to remain safely in their own homes, and supporting aging in place improves quality of life, preserves dignity, keeps families together, and is often far less expensive than institutional care. By establishing minimum standards and accountability provisions, we protect seniors, reduce the risk of abuse or exploitation, and support a workforce that families can trust. It's also important to clarify what this bill is and is not. This bill addresses non-medical home care. It's more than cooking and cleaning. These agencies are businesses that hire individuals to enter a client's private residence, most often the home of our seniors, to assist with bathing, dressing, and toileting, making sure that we are not allowing a known bad actor to walk into the personal homes and private vulnerable spaces of our elderly is important enough to require these very minimal protections. I also want to emphasize that this bill was thoughtfully and collaboratively crafted. We've spent a significant amount of time working with all stakeholders, and we used a limited government lens to try to strike the right balance, establishing minimum safety standards without creating unnecessary red tape that doesn't make any sense for the industry or for South Dakota. I respectfully ask for your consideration of House Bill 1138.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Shapauer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I am going to oppose this bill as I did in committee, and when it was in committee, it was brand new. But my opposition still stands for why I opposed it in committee. My opposition to this bill is about the constant regulations of small businesses. Regulations do not equal the guarantee of nothing's going to happen. Everything is going to be fine with more regulations. We have more guarantees. That is not true. For example, but it will guarantee that small businesses will close. For example, in-home daycares, loving people open their homes to maybe make a little extra money. A stay-at-home mom would like to raise her children while taking in other children, yet the state level sent all these regulations in. And guess what? Those small in-home daycares closed. Regulations will do the same for these non-medical, and that's real important, non-medical in-home care agencies, that many are small businesses, maybe sole proprietors, maybe 2 or 3 employees in an agency. Regulations are what kills small business. Fees are what kills small business. So I just want you to think about that when you vote on this. The industry, which are larger, employers of 10 or more, which are wonderful for our state, they love this because they have to abide probably by Medicare and Medicaid standards because they can accept these. Small businesses don't have to accept it. They can be cash only or self-pay. But the more we regulate these small businesses, the more people aren't going to want to start them. And I'll say this again, I'm not opposed to in-home care because I think that's wonderful. Just like in-home daycares, the more personalized experience, the better for the child or the aging vulnerable adult. That's wonderful. But I will state this again, the more regulations, the more businesses will say it's not worth it because I just want to do this as a little part-time business or something that I'm passionate about. But sometimes regulations kill the passions in our hearts. So, vote how you want, but I'm going to oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Heineman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was in the committee as well in health, and I was a no vote. In fact, the sponsor spent considerable amount of time trying to please my particular issues. And my issue was I did not want volunteers to have to file another state regulation or go through the hoops. Because my mother did some caregiving as a volunteer for many years, and then in her later years, we had people that helped out as well. She died at the ripe old age of 101 years old, so we had a lot of care in there. But the point I'm getting at is that I am changing my mind here today because the sponsor has done her due diligence and she did everything she can to ensure that a W-2 or 1099 is how that's going to delineate the issue. If you get paid that way, then I think you should probably have this small requirement, if you will. I mean, in our church, we have the typical process of going through background checks if we deal with children. My wife has to go through a screening and a particular, not test, but it's a process that they go through to evaluate whether they understand what they're doing, working with youth and adults in the church. So I think it's an appropriate step forward, and I applaud the sponsor.
Further remarks, Representative Whitman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've shared with this body before that my younger brother is both physically and cognitively disabled, and for more than 30 years, we've had in-home care in my family's home in Minnesota. And I can't imagine allowing someone to care for him who has not undergone basic training. If you are trusting somebody to help a loved one with bathing, meals, medications, or keeping them safe, this is not a casual responsibility that we are asking people to take on. It is extremely vulnerable and it is deeply personal. And I do not believe that 8 hours of foundational training and a background check is burdensome. This is not about creating additional red tape, and it's not designed to squeeze small businesses out. If this puts a good provider out of business, we have got bigger issues here. Most reputable agencies are already aligning with these standards, and this just ensures that everybody has to align by the same basic rules. Again, I would just like to reiterate, for those of us that have had to walk this road and navigate this for decades, this is not theoretical policy. This is about the daily safety of our loved ones. Please vote yes.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Halverson.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, first time that I read this bill, it just amazed me that this wasn't already in statute, that these people weren't already protected. Having been in law enforcement and seen what I have seen, it just blows my mind how this hasn't been done already. I have a friend who is pushing 100 years old right now. He's got a small yard, his small house, and he has somebody come and take care of him. But he mows his yard every week. He mows it. It takes 3 days to do it. He divides it into 3 parts and spends those 3 days out there because that's as far as he could walk. And his caregiver is out there in the yard. She's a beautiful lady. She takes very good care of him. But I've also seen some of those places that have been ransacked by people who are caregivers, and I just can't understand why we don't already have this in statute, that fingerprints aren't done. Some education isn't given for these people. It's incredible to me that this hasn't already been made statute. So please support this bill.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, listening to the previous speaker, I just can't help but think that, well, the free market takes care of itself. If somebody's not doing a good job at home care, they're not going to leave their family members there. It's that simple. But this is a clear expansion of government authority into a private service market and creates a new barrier to entry through licensure and regulatory compliance. While framed as consumer protection, the bill builds permanent administrative architecture and expands enforcement authority. Expanding the size and scope of government is not a Republican value. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Schubeck.
Question for the Prime.
State your question.
So in Centerville, we've got a severely autistic child, and finding help to care for this child is a very difficult task. And getting somebody to drive clear from Sioux Falls or one of the surrounding communities is a constant battle for some close friends of ours. How do we make that happen with this bill? because they're constantly having to search for people in the community to step in and help them out. And I'm just a little concerned. So if you could help answer that, I guess.
Representative Heerman, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So this bill doesn't impact anyone in the community, a neighbor, somebody who's stepping in, somebody who's helping the family out, pitch hitting, for example, when you can't find support. Now, the one issue, workforce, right, in this area, that's a real concern. This bill doesn't address workforce, but as far as if you needed somebody to come in at the last minute to help out with some, that is also not going to be impacted or hindered by this bill. This bill really slices out a very specific market, and it's only talking about non-medical home care agencies and the employees who are contractually paid through that agency. So if someone in the community is just wanting to help out and come in and assist, this bill doesn't detour that.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Schubeck.
Follow-up.
State your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How do you define agency? Because in this particular case, they had a young man providing care over a long period of time, and I'm just concerned about where that goes for this young man.
Representative Heerman, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Non-medical home care agency is defined as a person that for compensation and as a regular part of business provides or employs or contracts with home care aides to provide non-medical home care services intended to enable a client to remain safely in their personal residence. So it really speaks to that contractual agreement, that regular business, that employee that is part of that agency.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Schubeck. Further remarks on House Bill 1138, Representative Vandera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was also a no vote in committee. I felt that the bill itself was a little bit too broad, and let me tell you why. The pre-announcing is a problem for me personally. Someone who's used to inspections consistently, pre-announcing allows everyone to be on their best behavior. If this is truly going to help an elderly person, or, you know, as the good representative over there said, like a family member, regardless of age, that's concerning because they can be on their best behavior and it really won't show, you know, anything that, you know, what it is this bill is supposed to be doing, which is regulating this particular area. And the other issue I had was that attestation is actually going to be accepted in this bill. So attestation is just basically saying, if you get a complaint and it goes for an audit, someone can just say, oh yeah, we got the background checks and we've got this and we've got that. So it's also offering like this hollow, like feel good safety measure for family members and whomever has this loved one that needs care. And it's just, it doesn't really mean anything. So that's very concerning. So if you're gonna have pre-announced inspection, so to speak, and then also attestation, then what's the point? So those are the two big things. The other thing is this is non-medical care. I don't understand, like, even why the Department of Health was even part of this. This looks to me like abuse when it does happen, criminal activity, stealing, destroying residents, whatever it may be. So the bill itself is just a little bit too broad, so I'm going to stay a no. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Van Diepen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I read this bill and I listen to everybody testify, we forget who we're protecting here. For less than $100 and 8 hours of training, time that everybody in this chamber has been on their phone this week, more than 8 hours. We're not protecting the people that are committing the crimes or filling out the application. We're protecting the vulnerable population out there. Why do we forget about the people that are being taken care of and abused? It seems like everybody says, oh, we're going to overreach as a government. We've forgotten that we care about all of our citizens, not a few that are going to have to take an 8-hour class, spend $100 on an application. Let's consider the people that need our protection. Vote yes for this.
Further remarks, Representative Mulder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to clarify to the good representative's question from Beersford when he was talking about the family member who has autism, potentially trying to find caregivers. I want to clarify that, and it kind of echoes what Representative just previously spoke, and who this bill is for. So just to be clear, we're talking, home care for dementia, elderly folks, anyone with a disability, especially a young child. That's a whole different waiver system. It's called Family Support 360 or Shared Living or Choices. And those waiver systems are protected under DHS, and they have standards and classifications and everything that those folks go through. So if it's a family member, there's circumstances for that. There's med training. There's all sorts of things that those individuals have to go through for that. So I just want to clarify that because there was a question on that, and understand that we're not talking about disabled population in this bill fully. That's a different waiver system that they're on.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Schwans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question for the prime, please.
State your question.
I'm just wondering, are personal service providers included in this language? And like cosmetologists, do they offer, is this part of the language that's being provided for the personal service?
Representative Heerman, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, in the bill, it's very specific to home care aides, and that's defined out. And so a cosmetologist wouldn't be covered under this particular bit of legislation.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Schwans? Further remarks, Representative Mucky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Something that might be a bit of a misnomer for the body. So when we're using the term non-medical, something that's important to keep in mind, as the good sponsor of the bill brought forward just now, talking about home care aides. Some agencies who provide this, or depending on your process, may be able to actually accept Medicaid. So when you are talking about services, we might be saying non-medical services in this case, but in a sense, you're able to potentially receive reimbursement from this on a limited basis. But most importantly, to continue to echo this point, and I hope it's heard, we're talking about folks in our communities who are vulnerable, and grandmothers who were receiving these services, who were on the verge of later on being diagnosed with dementia. If we did not have those services, we may not have known, but if we were getting an unlicensed provider and we saw dips in quality of the providers who were serving in that home, licensure would protect that. So ultimately, for those organizations who are providing this is not going to harm their small business. But it could be the difference between a life-saving diagnosis earlier and making sure that we're taking care of those most vulnerable. So please, vote green today. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1138? Any further remarks? Representative Ismay.
Question for the prime.
State your question.
In section 7, it says there that a non-medical home care agency shall carry professional liability insurance coverage from a company that holds a certificate of authority from the Division of Insurance. So now it's not just the fee, now they have to have insurance too?
Representative Heerman, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many of these organizations already do, and the reason for that is because if you're helping to bathe or shower or toilet somebody on slippery surfaces, you could easily have a fall or an accident or something where the resident ends up being harmed. And so for both parties, you're going to want that liability insurance to be present. And so it generally is today, and this is just saying moving forward additionally, they should.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Ismay?
Just remarks, I guess. So I guess if I have some elderly neighbors that are in need of some help, I just want to make sure that we don't do this to where I have to have insurance. I go through a bunch of fees and all sorts of things to be able to help my neighbors. So that's just my concern.
Further remarks on House Bill 1138, Representative Wahlberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we're getting a little bit away from the point of this bill, and I just want to bring it back to what we are talking about. We are talking about caring for people in our homes that can't care for themselves, and we are going to hire somebody to come and care for them. Now, I want you to search the internet and just Google abuse in home care providing agencies. You're going to see this every single week that something comes up. Would you want these people hired by an agency to care for your grandparents or somebody with a disability in their house that has been convicted of an abuse charge? Or heaven forbid, a fraud charge? Liability insurance. I have liability insurance for my own personal small lawn care business that covers me. Let's think about the big picture. Come back to where this bill is at. We're trying to care for these people that are having a hard time doing this and trying to, let alone just having somebody to do it in these areas. I really appreciate the sponsor. She worked her tail off and her heart is poured into this thing to care for the right people for the right reasons. So I hope you all support her and me. We're going to vote green on this thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I can tell from the conversation today that not a lot of people have had to deal with this in real life. And I, unfortunately, have had to deal with it for 3 parents. My mother, my father, my father-in-law, and actually, my mother-in-law is still living. So, it's a real issue. You're making decisions about home health care for your loved ones, and then you find out there's no background check on them. There's nothing that they have to do to go through that process of literally bathing. You know, when I think about my father, he was bedbound for, never talk about an emotional bill. Here we go. From July until February, bedbound. The person who helped him had to change his diaper, give him baths, do all kinds of things to have him be able to live each day. You know, and it's really about human decency. This is about people who can't advocate for themselves. There was nothing he could do to push off somebody or to do anything to fight for himself because he was literally skin and bone. And then when we talk about, so I really think this is a step in the right direction. It's about 20 years too late in my case, but I'm really glad the good representative brought it forth. And then I also want to touch on the volunteering, because I have had a compassion for people around me my whole life, and I had elderly neighbors. I was not afraid to go help them when they were recovering from all kinds of surgeries in their 80s, and I didn't feel like there was a mistrust there. We trusted each other. I didn't need to have a background check in that situation. They wouldn't have asked me to come in had they not trusted me. So I think, you know, volunteering isn't the issue in this bill. It's the home health that are paid and doing non-medical procedures. We're talking about non-medical. So I would remind you why government exists. We exist to protect the very young, the very old, and all those who can't protect themselves. That's why we're here. And I would urge you to support this bill.
Further remarks, Representative Jorgensen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I reached out to a friend of mine who owns a home health agency because I wanted to get someone who's going to be directly impacted. So what she told me, and with her permission, I'm going to read this. The majority of home health agencies are already contracted or licensed. If you're doing only private pay, which I don't think there's many companies doing that, but there may be, maybe target them, but we have to do already 6 hours of training every 6 months for the whole staff. The main problem I have is with Section 4. As a home health agency, I would have to hire a new person just to give 10 hours of training for any new employee. I hired 3 to 4 new employees just last week, and that would take my office manager away from her desk. Could go to training with 4 different individuals. That's 40 hours in a week, but that's not sustainable. If you have 1 or 2 employees that you continually have on staff, that might be different. But when you have 10 to 30 employees and there's a big turnover, that's all you're doing is training. 10 hours of training is ridiculous when you have mandatory state training every 6 months and going over the same stuff. When we hire somebody, we go over everything they're supposed to do, and we have them sign off on a sheet of paper saying they understand, but it's not 10 hours worth. There's more that goes into that than people think. Section 4 is not doable unless we hire 1 person, and that's all they do, and small businesses can't keep doing that. So I just thought I would share what a person who does home health said. So thank you.
Thank you. Representative Overweg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I respectfully yield my time to the bill sponsor.
Thank you. Representative Heerman. In closing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to everyone for the great discussion today. Just want to share a couple of follow-up thoughts. There is a difference between home care agencies and non-medical. And so what the previous speaker, I think, was speaking to was more about medical. And they are regulated, and they already have to go through a lot of these different hoops. And what we're speaking to is a gap area that is not regulated. And so I just want to differentiate that a little bit. Many of the non-medical home care agencies themselves are asking for these guardrails. They want licensure, they want background checks. They want to ensure that when somebody hires them to care for their loved one, that there is a sense of confidence and that people can believe in them. This will provide peace of mind for families and legitimize the work that they are already doing well. And for reputable South Dakota organizations, this bill largely formalizes their best practice, the ones they are already using. However, what was shared with us is that this bill also protects our in-state small businesses. Because we are unregulated, out-of-state businesses can come in. They don't have any ownership in being within South Dakota. They have no alliance here. They can cut corners. They can use whatever practices, nefarious or otherwise, that they want. But our South Dakota businesses are doing the right thing. They're working every day to take care of our vulnerable population. So this bill actually helps them because right now out-of-state businesses have the advantage. They can come in and do whatever they want, and our businesses are doing the right thing for our South Dakota family and friends every day. And finally, this is not regulation for regulation's sake. We were intentional about being as limited as possible. There are no routine surveys that are part of this. You know, at Medicaid, they do announce surveys. That's a pretty common practice, and many in the medical area are accustomed to that. But we're not talking about that kind of survey. We're talking about non-medical care agencies. If you look through the process really quickly, you have a care agency that is going to get insurance. They're going to make sure they've run background checks. And they are going to send in a paper they've signed that says, yes, we've done everything we're supposed to. And they're going to send it into the state. And so with that being the things on the table, you could only survey those items. So there's no reason to travel. There's no reason to staff a nurse. There's no reason to go on site they would need to fax you proof that their employees had done the training and that they had done the background checks. These are basic safeguards that protect our most vulnerable and support a workforce that families can trust. I believe this bill strengthens our small businesses in South Dakota. I believe it adds protections that our vulnerable population needs, and I would encourage you to vote green today. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1138. All those in favor will vote yea, those opposed nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Odenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Personal privilege, please. Well, where I live, every day is Spearfish Day, and when I'm not here, I'm out in beautiful Spearfish. But here today in the Capitol, we are all fortunate that it is Spearfish Day, and we have people from the Spearfish Chamber and Visit Spearfish up in the gallery. And on behalf of myself and Representative Fitzgerald, I would ask you to give them a warm welcome. Thank you.
Whitman votes aye. Mortensen votes aye. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 41, nays 25, excused 4.
House Bill 1138, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members-elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
House Bill 1220, an act to regulate the sale of nicotine products and to provide a penalty therefor.
House Bill 1220, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Mulder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 1220. What this is over the last few weeks, there have been several discussions. When I say several, and that over the last few months, actually, there have been several and many discussions about tobacco products, vape products, and nicotine alternative products by many stakeholders, including retailers, C-stores, distributors, both on the tobacco and vape side. These conversations about regulating vapor and alternative nicotine products have been fruitful, but to date, a consensus on a full framework of regulation has not been achieved at this point of session. Those conversations did result, however, in consensus last week by stakeholders that the distribution of vapor and other nicotine alternative products should be licensed and treated as the same as how we've licensed distributors of cigarettes and tobacco products for decades. House Bill 1220, as it is before you, reflects a consensus on this point as a first step in setting up framework for regulatory vapor and nicotine alternative products. House Bill 1220 clarifies a state statute so the Department of Revenue can release information about license issued by the Department for Tobacco and Alternative Nicotine Products. This is a transparency provision. Updates the license, 1220 also updates the license fee for cigarette and tobacco distributors, which has not been updated since 1995. 1220 also sets forth the requirement that distributors of vape and other nicotine alternative products be licensed in the same manner as distributors of cigarettes and tobacco products who already are. The fee for this license will also be $1,000. This is a fairness issue so that all distributors now of tobacco and cigarettes, nicotine alternative, and vape all are at the same level and treated the same. This 1220 would require retailers of all these products to purchase products from licensed distributors. This helps us understand where these products are coming from, as right now it's completely unregulated across the state and in retail stores, C-stores, and other places. I encourage you to take the first step in addressing the issue that has boomed over the last few years, that we can get our arms around these nicotine alternatives and other vape products. I encourage your green vote on House Bill 1220.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1220? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1220. All those in favor will vote yea, those opposed nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Northrup.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's like playing football over here, I think. On behalf of the Aberdeen area legislators, Representative Schaefbauer, Representative Gosch, Representative Moore, Representative Manhart, and Representative Sosnes, I'd like to welcome the Aberdeen Leadership Group and welcome them, and I ask everybody else to welcome them on Aberdeen Day. Thank you.
Representative Mortensen. Granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just wandering into our chamber up right above you is the purveyor of purple positivity, the voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen, who's going to be speaking to us and the Chamber of Commerce folks tonight at the Ramkota at 6 o'clock. Mr. Allen sent an email to us to me earlier, because I'm going to be interviewing him. He told me no topic is off limits, and everybody in this room knows what a foolish thing that was to say. We just spent half an hour back. This is a man of faith and a man of principle, and a man who has brought the Minnesota Vikings to life for so many of us through the radio. Would you please help me welcome him to the House floor?
I feel like I really need to step up my game up here all of a sudden. We're just at ease while we're doing some fixing of the mouse batteries up here. We could use a little play-by-play of this.
Representative Heineman. We're going to have to call Julie. I can't get up to the. Heineman excused. Zoom. I can't go up. I can't. Oh. Get over there now. I did, and I keep going down. Yeah, I tried hers too. It doesn't. Oh, okay. Okay. Will you?
There you go.
Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are ayes 40, nays 25, excused 5.
House Bill 1220, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
House Bill 1222, an act to prohibit members of the Board of Economic Development from having any interest in monies from or approved by the Board of Economic Development.
House Bill 1222, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Lems.
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment, Amendment 1222D.
1222D, has it been distributed online?
Yes.
You wish to move it at this time?
Yes, I do.
That motion to amend House Bill 1222 with Amendment 1222D having been made and seconded, remarks on your motion, Representative Lems.
Yes, speaking to the amendment, it brings definition to the ownership interest that is mentioned in the bill, basically describing it as passive investment without control does not constitute direct ownership.
Thank you. Further remarks on the Lems motion to amend? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, question for the House is the Lems motion to amend House Bill 1222 with Amendment 1222D. This is a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion to amend will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're now on House Bill 1222 as amended. Representative Lems.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As noted, I'm bringing House Bill 1222D to you today. And this bill basically just talks about our Governor's Office of Economic Development. And it basically says if you have a direct ownership or serve on another board that will be receiving an award, grant, or loan from the Governor's Office of Economic Development, you cannot do those two things at the same time. So I'm bringing this bill today to bring protection for the integrity of our state's economic growth objectives and shore up the public trust. So I was privileged to serve on the Government Operations and Audit Committee over the summer months and into the fall with some of you. And during that time, we had concerns that were raised with how the Governor's Office of Economic Development operates with public monies. Now, some of those concerns have been addressed. We had Senate Bill 1 that didn't make it over here, but Then yesterday, we had House Bill 1286. So just for the public, to give a little bit of background for those that are listening, the South Dakota Governor's Office of Economic Development, which we call GOED, was established in 1987 by then Governor George Mickelson. And it is operated under the purview of the governor, and there are up to 13 board members that can be serving on that board appointed by the governor, and 4 non-voting legislative members. It is a 4-year term, and these voting members are approved by the Senate. There is no term limit for them, so they can serve consecutive times if appointed. And they also must file a statement of financial interest with the Secretary of State. So, just to give you an idea of what the board does, it reviews applications, approves incentives, grants, and awards designed for job growth and economic opportunities. And if there is a conflict of interest, the board member must recuse themselves from discussion and abstain from voting. And I do believe that many who have been involved in this process over the last 39 years have had very good intentions. But as with any institution, you are bound to have missteps over time which lead to questions and the eroding of trust by the public. Now, I do understand that nonprofit and business boards have multiple members who often serve on various boards, often on more than one board at a time. But when we step into the public arena and serve on a board where there are taxpayer monies involved, it demands more than good intentions. We must avoid even the appearance of self-dealing. So as you all know, in this last year, we had a spotlight that was shown on this issue. And I'm not going to get into the details of that, but again, we have to get above the appearance of even any kind of impropriety that is glaringly obvious to the public that it's there. And so it's not okay, and we can do better, we must do better. And don't tell me that we don't have qualified people that will not have a conflict of interest that can give 4 years of their time to sit on this board. As stated by one of our legislators who sits on the board, quote, "We cannot make informed decisions with public funds if it is clouded by undisclosed conflicts after decisions are made. Legislative reform is necessary now." So again, I want to emphasize this is not about accusing anyone of wrongdoing. This is about preventing the possibility altogether. When board members can sit in judgment over awards that could personally enrich them or their associates, we risk eroding confidence in the entire process. South Dakotans deserve to know that decisions about economic incentives are made solely on merit, on what's best for jobs, families, and our future, not on who knows whom or who stands to gain privately. So again, we can do better, we must do better, and I would ask you to pass House Bill 1222.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Mucky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I'll announce myself in this case. I was the legislative board member who shared that quote with a media outlet after this happened. So I was present for a meeting during the time frame of the governor's hunt in which a decision was made about a private entity, which is subject to the article that was placed on your desk. And the board chair of the Board of Economic Development had ties, in some case, to that organization. Now, it's important to state two things. One, that individual recused themselves multiple times. But the second part is, as I looked at the situation, I was very hot after that meeting for reasons that actually had nothing to do with potential of interest in this case. And what I mean by that is, in the process of that meeting, the board chair recused themselves. There was clearly a conflict of interest or some sort of conflict there, and they'd recuse themselves properly based on codified law. But the second half of this was concern about, are we getting accurate disclosures in a timely fashion? So the solution to that problem is actually not this bill. The solution to the problem is something that I actually tried to address this session with latitude, Mr. Speaker. I might reference a bill that I previously brought forward, if that's okay.
That's granted.
Thank you. I had introduced a bill, House Bill 1166, to try to address this problem along with the good senator from Brookings County, who also serves with me on the Board of Economic Development as an ex officio member. What we were concerned about was we were not certain that there's an appropriate amount of time for how many times we're supposed to see conflict of interest disclosures from board members. I had introduced the bill, and upon doing so with the senator from Brookings County, he and I both came into conflicts in the case of not conflict of interest, but the problem with the bill itself. The bill itself went too far when we drafted it, and we ended up withdrawing it because it was too broad in its scope. What we found in this process, and this is where the problem really needs to be solved. I did not have time to get that bill in time, and I'm happy to talk through amendments to get to this point. But the point is, the issue at hand is that we only ask for statements of interest at the time of appointment. Governor's Office or Board of Economic Development members are appointed on 4-year terms. The simple solution to that is actually going to Chapter 3-23, which governs all of the boards of the state of South Dakota in that statute, and addressing the fact that statements of interest need to be filed annually. Something that we do fairly regularly, but it's also a common conflict of interest process when it comes to nonprofit boards, other boards around the state. The problem with this particular piece of legislation is that we have an entire section of code, Section 323, that addresses every single time when somebody may have an interest in something. This bill has no need, as I learned later on after having made this specific statement, because ultimately Chapter 3-23 addresses that. The problem is public disclosure, not the fact that a board member recused themselves from a conflict of interest. As we learned in that process, the board member didn't break any law. They were not actually interested, fortunately. Otherwise, we would have had a real problem on our hands. The problem was disclosures, and that information was not clear. The senator and I from Brookings County came to that realization. We tried to find a solution to that. We did not come to that, but that is a solution that we need to make. Not this.
Whitman yields.
And the reason being is that if we go down this path specifically of naming that you cannot have any interest in this, then we're going to have to open up our entire code for every single board we have and change our law to say you can't have interest in anything. And the reason being, that's why it's a problem, is we define that process extremely clearly, very thoroughly. Every board, there is a process to say you must recuse. When can you not participate? When are you allowed to participate? And can you or can you not have an interest in something? That is clearly defined in Chapter 3-23, and that is why this bill is wholly unnecessary. And me giving that quote, I want you to hear this from me directly. We did find reform this year. The first time in 37 years that the Board of Economic Development, Governor's Office of Economic Development, has been regulated thoroughly to match the intent of what Governor Mickelson created. So yes, while I made this quote, it's important for me to tell you very specifically why I made that quote. And the answer to the question is not this bill. The answer to the question is we need annual disclosures of interest for our boards across the board, not just boards of economic development. And I am disappointed to see that used today, and I want to make sure I clear that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1222? Any further remarks? Representative Odenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a few remarks. This is a good bill. It should be passed. And what I say respectfully to all of you, but I've just been thinking about just the last couple of days here. And whether it's fees for snow bears, or it's regulations on home health care, or it's upping the fees for nicotine, or it's taxpayer money for economic development, I think of the famous Ronald Reagan quote. He said, government's view of the economy could be summed up in a few short phrases. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. And if it stops moving, subsidize it. And it just kind of seems like we're completing the trifecta. So I would just ask us all to please listen to where the constituents are on this bill, and let's do a better job of regulating what we do with our economic development efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1222? Representative Reich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I have a lot of respect for the sponsor of House Bill 1222, and her heart's in the right place here. But this is a flawed bill. We've already got strict conflict of interest laws codified in SDCL 323 that apply to all state boards, commissions, and authorities. It's impossible to predict what the next project might be that the board would be asked to consider. People will either choose not to volunteer to serve on this board, or they'll be forced to resign their position when a project arises because the ownership stake requirement is very broad. Now, the amendment helped that. I'll acknowledge that. But still, we need the very best South Dakota business leaders to serve on the Board of Economic Development. We want people who are on the cutting edge of business development to serve in this capacity. Through a lot of hard work, the Governor's Office of Economic Development was able to convince the Schwanz Corporation to bring the facility north of Sioux Falls that was headed to Kansas. Over a $500 million investment in South Dakota and 650 new jobs. The board chairman followed the law. He recused himself. He's an extremely honest man. He did absolutely nothing wrong in the case cited to bring this bill. We'll probably lose him as a board member. Passage of this bill will have a horrible impact on the governor's ability to attract the very best candidates for the board. The board is audited, please listen to this, the board is audited annually by the South Dakota Banking Commission, the South Dakota Legislative Audit, and an independent third-party auditing firm. This bill is unnecessary and will be harmful to the economic future of South Dakota. I would ask that you join me in opposing the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1222? Any further remarks? Representative Auk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the prime sponsor.
State your question.
How many members on the Government Operations of Economic Development, how many members are on that board?
Representative Lems, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, I do. There's a total of 13 appointed by the governor and 4 legislative members, non-voting.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Auk.
Just remarks. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate this legislation. I also served on Government Operations and Audit Committee, and by all means, I appreciate and respect all the comments on the floor today, but I truly believe in the state of South Dakota we have more than 20 skilled individuals in the state of South Dakota to serve on the GO-ED bill. In other words, if you're on a board, you don't get to sit on both sides of the table. You cannot help decide where the money goes and also profit from where the money goes. You don't get both, you don't get to have both ways. There's a basic conflict of interest, and this bill draws a bright, clear line against it. This is not an indictment to anyone serving today. It's protection for them. For future board members and for the public, it takes away the appearance of impropriety as well as the reality of it. Even when nothing wrong is happening, if citizens believe insiders are benefiting from public decisions, confidence erodes. And that hurts everyone in every program we administer. We ask a lot of our citizens in terms of trust to collect their tax dollars, redistribute them, and invest them in the state's future. We owe them policies that justify the trust. This bill is one of those policies. By supporting this measure, we affirm a simple principle. Public service is about service, not self-interest. The people of South Dakota deserve that assurance in clear law, not just in good intentions. Please vote for this bill. It makes everybody look good. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1222? Representative Ismay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I find it kind of interesting that this body will regulate the heck out of our citizens, but we tend to not want to regulate ourselves. Kind of an interesting predicament. So vote green.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Shorma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, as hundreds of you have said, I wasn't going to stand up and talk about this bill. How many of you have hired, actually invited, other professionals to serve on your company board of directors? I have, many times, for multiple companies. You're asking these people to give up an entire day per quarter, twice a year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, whatever you have for board meetings, at little or no pay compared to what they can earn serving their company. They have no benefit other than helping, volunteering, helping you run your business in better than you could without. Always surround yourself with people that are smarter than you are. Now, at every meeting, we ask if there's any conflict of interest with anybody on our board of directors. And they say no, if there isn't any. And generally there aren't any. I serve on a local, essentially city commission, but it's called a community improvement district. Dakota Dunes is not an incorporated community. I serve on that board. Every meeting at the beginning, we're asked, do you have a conflict of interest? Based on the agenda, based on what we're going to talk about tonight. And we have to say yes or no. So this is common sense to me. We're already asking those questions, and the people that volunteer are doing it honestly out of the goodness of their heart, not for personal gain. Sure, there may be something that comes up that is a conflict, and they need to recuse themselves. It's just that simple. So I suggest we vote green. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1222, Representative
Red,
Peterson.
sorry.
Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I have a couple areas I want to address or look at when we're considering this. And I agree. I think it's really important that we do address this. And I agree with the speaker to my left that said that there's some ways that we should address this, and maybe this isn't the right way to do it. I want to point us all to codified law that addresses this right now. It's 323.1, and it says, if I may, it says state authority, board, and commission members prohibited from having interest in or deriving direct benefit from contract. And it's just a few lines, and I'll read it. No elected or appointed member of a state authority, board, or commission may have an interest in or derive a direct benefit from any contract. 1, with the state agency to which the authority, board, or commission is attached for reporting or oversight purposes that requires the expenditure of government funds. 2, with the state that requires the approval of the authority, board, or commission and the expenditure of government funds. Or 3, with the political subdivision of the state, if the political subdivision approves the contract and is under the regulatory oversight of the authority, board, or commission or agency to which the authority, board, or commission is attached for reporting or oversight purposes. It finishes with, no elected or appointed member of a state authority, board, or commission may derive a direct benefit from any contract as provided under this section for 1 year after the end of the member's term on the authority, board, or commission, except as provided in a couple subsections. So a lot of this stuff is already addressed, but again, I agree that we should add some more things, and I think we will do that later this session. I'm going to look at the bill now in the amended form, and again, it says a member of the Board of Economic Development may not have a direct ownership interest in or serve on the board of any entity receiving an award, disbursement, expenditure, or grant of public monies from or approved by the Board of Economic Development. Simple line, but I think it caused a lot of conflict and confusion. You know, when these boards, no matter what board you sit on, but this board, you don't know if a business is going to get a grant or get help until they get it. When are you supposed to resign from the board or this Board of Economic Development if they're considering applying, or once you start talking, or once you start approving them? There's so much ambiguity in that. So I think the problem that will end up arising is if you serve on any other board, you cannot serve on this board. That is what this law is going to do, because it's going to preempt you from being able to do both, because you never have an idea if that company or you're going to have a conflict that you cannot just disclose and exclude yourself from with existing laws or additional laws. I think if we make a precedent on this one board that you cannot be active, basically can't be active in the state if you're on this board, we're going to have trouble finding good applicants. We're going to have trouble finding good board members, and that's just going to hurt our state. So I think we should do more oversight, but I think this is a sledgehammer on a problem that needs maybe a scalpel or a better way of getting at the exact problem. So I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1222? Any further remarks? Would any member wish to speak before Representative Mucky speaks for a second time? Representative Mucky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't like getting up twice for a bill. This is probably the first time I've done that in my entire time here. I just want to reiterate the point. This bill would create confusion, as the prior speaker just shared, with Codified Law 3-23. The problem is, and this is why I gave my thoughts on this, the problem is we're not looking at the right part of the code. What we need to look at is requiring annual disclosure statements from our appointees. That's not in this bill. It needs to come from a different bill. And I wish the bill that I had introduced, that I had to withdraw, would have been able to address at this time, and I would love to see that done right now. But I think it's important for us as a body to recall, this is not the solution to the problem we have. There is a different solution. We need to pursue that. Please vote red, and let's go towards that solution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1222? Any further remarks? Representative Lems in closing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'll just say we are in a really bad way in this state. If we can't find people that will stand up to the challenge to not serve on another board that might be only getting an award, a grant, or a loan from the Governor's Office of Economic Development. How many awards, grants, and loans are we handing out if we're going to affect that many people? So I did really a quick look of how many professionals, and of course we could go on and on and on, how many professionals we have in this state. 5,000 realtors, 60,000 in healthcare, 2,000 lawyers, 28 land developers, 115,000 in agribusiness, 11,000 in banking, and I could go on and on and on and on. We have a high standard in this state for those of us that sit in this room. There are things we cannot be involved in. In fact, we had a past legislator that didn't run again because of a conflict he had with his business, with serving as a legislator. We don't get paid a lot to be here either. But we have a problem, and the public sees the problem too. And 323-1, which I have in my hand as well, is not getting the job done. Not in this case where we have millions and millions and millions of dollars going out. So, if this is asking too much, then vote red. But if you agree with me, and I will tell you, the public sees this. They are demanding more from us. So with that, I will ask for your green vote on House Bill 1222.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1222. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Schaefbauer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Aberdeen Snow Queen Festival began in January of 1947 as a post-World War II initiative by the Aberdeen Jaycees and Jayceettes, following an invitation to become a satellite event for the St. Paul Winter Carnival. The inaugural 1947 event featured 19 contestants and crowned Dorothy Lockington as the first queen at the Civic Arena. The festival has grown to include Frosty, the mystery figure in 1949, and eventually the Junior Snow Queen. And I would like all of you, on behalf of myself and Representative Al Norstrup, to welcome the 80th annual, this year was the 80th annual Snow Queen event. And with us today are our 80th crowned queens. And help me welcome Miss Aberdeen, Caitlin Dahlman, and Miss Junior Aberdeen, Caitlin Nyes. Thank you for coming and visiting us.
Gosh votes aye.
Representative Auk. Granted.
Mr. Speaker, I have with me Ariana Weston from Yankton, and her mother in the audience. Ariana is here with Teen Pack this week, and she was just telling me what a wonderful experience she's had, learning all about how legislature works and how you pass a bill. So I am delighted to have her here with me and her mom and her brother and her sister, who have joined us all week. So please welcome Ariana Weston and her mom.
Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are ayes 29, nays 36, excused 5.
House Bill 1222, having failed to receive the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared lost.
House Bill 1089, an act to modify the distributions of revenues collected from severance taxation on new permits.
House Bill 1089, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 1089 is an act to modify the distribution of revenues collected from severance taxation on new permits. I would like to start with a little background. The city of Lead was officially founded on July 10th, 1876, following the discovery of gold in the area. In 1935, a mineral severance tax was established to help offset the impacts of mining on the local community. After a tax law change in 1989, Lawrence County began receiving 20% of the mineral severance tax revenue, while the remaining 80% was allocated to the state of South Dakota. Although Lawrence County continued to receive its 20% share, a $1 million cap was placed on the county's total distribution. That cap was reached in 1994. So 5 years later, we had reached our cap. Since that time, Lawrence County has not received any additional mineral severance tax revenue. So for the past 32 years, 100% of the mineral severance tax has been allocated to the state of South Dakota. During this time, more than $100 million has been deposited directly into the state treasury. House Bill 1089 proposes a modification to current law regarding the distribution of mineral severance tax revenue. This modification would affect new entities that are permitted to sever minerals after July 1st, 2026. So we will keep with the 80% of those revenues collected to be deposited in the state treasury, and 20% would be distributed to the county treasurer in the county where the minerals are severed. This passed through House Appropriations in a 9-0 vote. There was no opposition. No one testified in opposition to this bill. So voting in favor of House Bill 1089 supports a fair and balanced distribution of mineral severance tax revenue. For decades, 100% of these funds have gone to the state, while the local communities, mostly impacted by mining activities, have received none. This bill restores a reasonable 20% share to the county where the minerals are severed, ensuring that local governments have the resources needed to address infrastructure demands, public services, and long-term community impacts associated with mining operations. I am asking for a favorable vote. Please vote green. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1089, Representative Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the body. We talk about working together with the citizens of the state of South Dakota, with local governments, and us right here in the Capitol. Well, this is a good bill because all three of those entities came together on this. The people of Deadwood, they came and they put on a really great presentation as to why this bill was needed. The state of South Dakota, the BFM, worked diligently with them to make sure that this would work and be feasible for everybody involved in this. And the citizens of the state of South Dakota, including the great citizens of Deadwood and the eastern part of South Dakota, will benefit from this as well because of the fun that we all like to do when we go to the great town of Deadwood and lead South Dakota. So I highly recommend you vote yes on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1089? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1089. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Uri Balk. Granted.
Today in the chamber, we have a host from South Dakota's most popular political podcast, and he has spent much of his childhood here in this building. So I'd like to welcome Dakota Towns Hall, Jake Schoenbeck.
Representative Emery. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are ayes 65, excused 5.
House Bill 1089 having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, it's hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
House Bill 1040, an act to revise the child support obligation schedule.
House Bill 1040, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Speaker, I was asked to serve on the Commission of the Child Support. This commission is required by the federal government that we review our child support guidelines every 4 years. The next review will not occur until 2029. These child support figures and the documents, the information that's in this bill itself will not change until 2030. And why that's so significant is that we have 43,000 cases that involve the use of this schedule. And so what we do today, whatever changes we make, that will stay in effect until July 1st of 2020, or 2030, excuse me. The purpose of the committee is to review and revise the child support guidelines and bring them up to date, which has not occurred for the last 4 years. The last revision was in 2022. And these child support figures will not change. So it isn't something that changes every year. It stays that way for the next 4 years. So whatever you decide has an impact regardless of what happens to the economy. These schedules are used by the courts and the child support referees to determine what the child support is going to be. We have used the same documentation, or I shouldn't say documentation, we've used the same process that we've had in the years before in order to come up with this. And I will tell you that we met several times. The booklet is about this thick as far as all the financial information that we received to come up with this. So these schedules are based upon expenditures, data which track family spending. The committee also reviewed economic data as related to the cost of raising children and the impact of the schedule has upon all income ranges. To put things in perspective, the data that we learned disclosed that the prices have increased 15.6% from the time it was last, those schedules were last set in July of 2021 to March 2025. Food has increased 21.7%, and housing has increased 19.7%. Cost of child care, rearing, we all know, has really increased as well, but that's factored into the figures that we have in this bill here. Another major factor taken into consideration, the difference between the South Dakota and U.S. families' income, and what we learned in our meetings was that the South Dakota's median income was 92.2% of the U.S. mean income. And then the final factor that we had to look at was dealing with the current federal poverty guidelines. So as we look at these data, let me give you an example of how this works to put it in perspective of why these schedules are so important. So let's say, for example, we have, hypothetically, let's say that we have a parent that makes $4,000 a month. The other parent earns $2,000 a month for a total of $6,000. So what they do is they take that figure and then they look at this chart, which is what 1040 does, to look how many kids that you have, what it would cost according to those guidelines to determine what the child support would be. So let's say hypothetically in that situation, one child, it was $600 to do that. What they then determine is this, is who is the custodial parent? And the custodial parent then would pay their pro rata share of whatever was attributable to that amount of money. So let's just say, to switch things around, let's say that the person who made $6,000 was the spouse, the wife, and the former husband was the one who made the $2,000. Well, the spouse, the wife, that would represent 2/3 of what that income was. And so then what you would do is you'd take whatever that $600 was, you reduce it by 2/3, and then whatever is left, that custodial parent would then have to pay the amount. Now, there have been people have been asked, well, what happens, if we have different financial situations? Our laws already provide a way where you can deviate from the child support guidelines that's set forth in 25.7.6.1. There are 6 different reasons there. And then there's also, during that period of time, if income goes up or income goes down, you can go to the referee and ask for a modification. So what this really does is it brings it up to date. What we're using right now in 2026 are based upon data back into 2021.
Rice Shields.
And so that's why it's important for us to make these changes. And thank you for yielding.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Manhart.
Yes, thank you. I rise and urge you to vote no on this bill. If this bill were to pass, it would increase most child support obligations by about 10%. And that, of course, sounds great for the person receiving the payment, but the person that I'm concerned about is the person making the payment. These parents are often already paying for a lot of things for their children. You pay to take them hunting, you pay to take them fishing, you pay to care for them in your home when you have them, beds and extra rooms and things like that. And you do all of those things before the payment would increase under this bill. So I don't think that's quite fair. Number two, there was a concern about inflation. Well, built into the model already, the more you get paid, the more you have to pay in child support. So you make $50,000 a year, you make one payment, you make $60,000 a year, you pay a bigger payment, and so on. So there's already a model built in for that. And number three, I have a constituent in my district who is using every program South Dakota offers to stay afloat. He takes care of 2 kids, he has to pay child support on a third. And if this were to go into effect and his child support were to go up, he would be financially ruined. I mean, he's paying, he's hand to mouth every month. He's doing the best he can, and I think we need to pay attention to both parents in this situation, not just one. So I would urge a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1040. Any further remarks, Representative Andera?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, and I talked to some of the constituents of mine as well, and I think the problem here that really needs to be looked at is enforcement. Actually getting the payment from the person who is paying for the child support. It's not the amount. I think the amount, really, the people that I talk to, not not a problem. They're fine with the amount. The ones that are worried are the ones that they can't even get the child support payment. So I think maybe we need to redirect, what we're putting our time and energy into. Thank you. No vote from me.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1040? Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just rise in opposition to this bill. Most broken homes that I am aware of in my district and my personal life, the dad pays child support and then he takes care of his kids on top of that. So the dads are already doing their jobs. We don't need to raise that by a mandatory bill from the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Schwans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today just to ask the House body, how many of you guys have ever had to go through this process? Sadly, I had to go through portions of this process due to my own personal experiences, but we did what was called reasonable visitation, and we never got the state involved, which was great. Because once you get the state involved, then they have to have control over all these payments. I do have one question for the Prime, if I may.
I'll allow it. State your question.
Is there a way when this child support is being decided upon, is there a way for them to figure out who gets the tax credit at the end of the year for the end of year taxes?
Representative Stevens, do you wish to answer that question?
Sure, the parties can agree to that in advance.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Schwans.
Yeah, follow up. So is that added into the formula?
Representative Stevens, do you wish to answer that question?
What you would do is in your divorce decree, as you're dealing with that, you would put that in there that there would be that credit that would be applied. It'd just be also like claiming income tax exemptions. You can agree to that as well.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Schwans.
I do have some remarks, but I'll probably keep them to myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1040? Any further remarks? Representative Ladner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, you want to know if anyone's ever gone through this before? You're looking at one. Single mom, 2 kids, pretty much a deadbeat dad who had lots of money but didn't want to pay, which is fine. There are policies in place where you can go through the courts and have wages attached. The support goes to the courts issue the checks. So the kids are provided for. The comment from my fellow representative that, you take them fishing, they take them hunting, as well they should. As well they should. My daughter probably had 1 pair of blue jeans and a pair of tennis shoes going to high school, but we were happy and there was peace in our house. You don't understand unless you've gone through it. The skin you have in the game and the love and unconditional love you should have for your children. And it just is not about money. It's not about money at all. Sure, you need it, but it's not the goal. The goal is to love your children, raise them the best you can, give them the moral fiber to withstand the world that we're living in and to make the right choices. So this is a program or levels of payment that renews every 4 years. All they're asking is that we continue to renew, to keep up with inflation, to provide for our children, and hopefully be able, by the grace of God, to give them a college education, which I was fortunate to do. I just urge you to vote green. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This came through Judiciary Committee, and I had asked the question. This is my first exposure to this process, thankfully, and this is my first exposure to deliberating on a bill like this. And so, as we looked at this bill with pages and pages and pages of numbers, I'm thinking to myself, well, why can't we just do something that automatically adjusts with inflation and never address this again? I asked the question, and the response was, and it makes complete sense to me, is that this is a process that has gone through not simply to reflect the CPI, but to reflect the cost of raising children. It's a very extensive process that goes into determining these new numbers. Again, it's not simply the cost of inflation that we all experience in various ways. It's the cost of raising children. So I'd appreciate your green vote. Thanks.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1040? Any further remarks? Anything in closing? Representative Stevens in closing.
Well, thank you. This is the second time I've served on this commission, and it's really involved. I just want to clear up a couple of things. You know, we talk about the non-custodial parent doing this and doing that, but you know what? The custodial parent's doing that and probably more. When we set these schedules, we don't change it. So in 2022, that's what the schedule was. What was it in 2023 when the inflation was set? Nothing. It stayed the same schedule number in 24. And in 25, nothing changed. In 25, 26, it didn't change. And if we don't change it and bring it up to date, because that's really what we're doing is up to dating, so then we're going to go 9 years with no updates. Now, are there ways to deal with the concerns that have been made here today? The statute already provides them. There are 6 ways to deviate from the guidelines. If your income goes up or somebody goes down, can you go and ask for a change? Yes. But what doesn't change is the amounts. They stay the same. And they're all based upon financial and economic data. So I think it's really important for us to do that. And then ultimately, who are we talking about? We're talking about the kids. We're talking about the kids. And so we really do need to bring this up to date. We don't need to go an entire decade. I don't know what the financial situation of our economy is going to be in the next 4 years, but I'm not willing to say that it's going to stay the same. And we know it's not going to. It's going to cost more each year the next 4 years. So I'd ask for your green vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of 1040. All those in favor will vote yea, those opposed nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote.
Representative Goodwin. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
The clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are ayes 40, nays 25, excused 5.
House Bill 1040, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members-elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct. Representative Odenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move we defer the balance of today's calendar to tomorrow, Friday, February 20th, 2026.
The Odenbach motion having been made and seconded, any remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Odenbach motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Constitution requires a speaker to sign bills in open session, and so the speaker is signing House Bill 1003, an act to amend provisions pertaining to the required criminal background investigation of certain school employees. The Speaker signing House Bill 1019, an act to revise provisions regarding pesticide laws. The The Speaker is signing House Bill 1035, an act to modify provisions related to the licensure of public accountants. And the Speaker is signing House Bill 1201, an act to authorize the use of bingo games, lotteries, and pull tab devices by booster clubs. Are there any announcements? Representative Lems.
House Commerce and Energy will meet tomorrow, 10 o'clock, room 464. We will have 3 bills.
Thank you. Representative Greenfield. Hello back there.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Education tomorrow morning, 7:45 a.m. We have 2 bills. Thank you.
Thank you. Further announcements? Representative Derby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Committee on Appropriations bill hearing at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Odenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House State Affairs meets 15 minutes after we gavel out in 414 to hear 4 bills, and we meet tomorrow morning at 7:45 and 414 for 3 more.
Thank you. Representative Goodwin.
House Military and Veterans Affairs meets right next to House State Affairs in the next 15 minutes.
Sounds like a plan. Any further announcements? Representative Baumüller.
Mr. Speaker, I move we adjourn.
All those in favor of adjournment will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mm-hmm.